Hello, you macher munching macaques. I'm Ralphie, and welcome to Ralphie Review 1007 here in the Bothy. And a big thank you for that malt mention to, I better try and get this right, to Markramen. I think that's about right. Well, my writing's quite clear. Seems an unusual name, but that's fine. On we go. This is a review. I knew I was here for a reason. This is a review of a single malt Scotch whisky. We're coming up to the end of 2023, and this is a variety of single malt Scotch whisky which is coming on to experienced whisky drinkers' radar. It's a real character, and I've never had a bad bottling yet. There's a reason for the character in this single malt. I will come to that later in the video. But let me introduce Craigellachie 13-year-old Bass Armagnac matured Scotch single malt whisky. Here's the bottle. Many of you will be more familiar with the standard 13-year-old Craigellachie, which works wonderfully well. It's a really good, gutsy single malt. Not one that I would give to people who are starting out in whisky, or maybe they've just got a couple of years under the belt. This is one of these whiskies where you kind of grow into over time, and you need time to develop your palate before you're going to get everything that's going on here. All the bottlings from Craigellachie are bottled at 46% alcohol per volume. And yep, and they're unchill filtered. It says it on the back of the label, and natural colour. So we're certainly looking at a clearly presented, stated, because it's on the label where it matters, stated integrity single malt. With integrity, you simply get more of an event. When we're buying to sip and taste rather than for mixing cocktails or drowning with soda water, or even worse, Coca-Cola, this is a sort of whisky that's worth investing in. On the nose, a real fruity, rich cereal barley sugar note. So it's grain rich with some distinctive fruity notes, and what I'm getting is a combination of some soft pineapple and grapefruit, and also in the background a little bit of slightly overripe apples. You know, these kind of russety apples, the ones that taste slightly nutty? They're called Cox's Orange Pippins. Yeah, that's what they're called. A really interesting nose, a little whiff of smoke on it as well. Not much in the way of peatiness. It's really more of a sort of soft, almost cask-sourced smokiness. Something slightly, gently, soft chimney and slightly carbolic. First taste. Ripe citrus fruit notes. Again, getting that pineapple. Slightly baked pineapple, or grilled pineapple, even better. Grilled pineapple, ripe russety apples, slightly oxidised apples, but good rich flavour there, and grapefruit rind. One of the things you'll notice immediately in first taste is that this is a whisky which isn't frightened of delivering in the sensation range, that sweet, salt, sour, bitter and savoury. So they've dialed in the sweetness, the sourness is quite prominent, and the bitterness is quite prominent. There's a slight saltiness, so it's not over the top, but you're getting that salt, slight salt, but it's a savoury, the smoke's delivering a little bit of savoury, but it's the sour bitterness which is quite manifest here, and very nicely balanced, by the way. This is the flavour of a well warehoused whisky. I have something else I want to add about Craigellachie, is their consistency in what they're creating. In adding water, by the way, 3 millilitres, that should do it. Now, as I was saying, consistency between batches. I mean, I've been reviewing, let me see, the last review I had was the 17-year-old back in March of 2022 in Ralphie Review 919. And I was very impressed with it then. But the previous review of the standard 13-year-old, we're really going back quite a number of years. I haven't actually jotted it down. What I have jotted down is for my head nudgers, is that I've reviewed the 17-year-old twice because it has been a very affordable, because it's a less well-known brand. But for whisky fans, this is definitely one that's coming onto people's radar. You've got the 13 Bass Armagnac, the 17, there's also a 23, 31, and if you want to spend £3,000, there's also a 37-year-old version of Craigellachie. Quite an old-fashioned presentation, an old-fashioned label. I do approve, actually. It gives it kind of that old-time classy look. It is an older distillery, loads of character, and one of its significant features is that it uses worm tubs for cooling liquor. Now, there are a number of distilleries that use worm tubs. Worm tubs are simply a great big pot of cold water, and when the distillate is coming off the hot stills and starting to cool down, it runs down like a helter-skelter through a broad copper pipe in this big massive bucket of cold cooling water. Now, this is not usual in the making of Scotch whisky these days, although it should be, because cooling sleeves are more efficient and they do the job faster. But the thing about worm tubs is it increases the physical exposure of new made liquor in its vaporized form, coming off the stills, getting cooled down more gradually, more slowly, with a lot of copper contact. And there's no doubt about it, that improves the actual robustness and the flavoursome of the spirit. You find distilleries like Glenfarclas doing this, which is why their old casks, their family reserve casks, are so very, very good, because when you make robust spirit, it simply weathers better over time. Glenfiddich use a number of worm tub cooling systems at their distillery, and Springbank do as well, most importantly. The new Ardnahoe distillery in Islay is one of the few examples of a contemporary distillery using worm tub technology. Well, we call it technology, but it's super simple. I highly approve of it, and I wish more distilleries would switch to using worm tubs. Cheers. So what are we getting after a few minutes with about 3 mils of water in the glass? Now, you'll notice I didn't add too much. We're getting, first and foremost, a little bit of Scotch mist. It's appearing, just reinforcing the integrity of the fact that this whisky has not been chill filtered and stripped of part of the experience. It's not been pasteurised effectively. So you simply get more flavour. There's nobody denying it, not now. People used to say, oh, Ralphie, you can't say that, chill filtration affects whisky, because nobody even notices. Well, you'll notice once you buy a bottle and you compare it side to side, chill filtered and unchill filtered. But bear in mind, there's some brands that say unchill filtered, but they're still heavily filtering, but without the chill on. So distilleries can cut themselves a lot of slack with the information they give you, resulting in you being ill-informed, which is why it's quite refreshing to come to a brand like Craigellachie, where we do the litmus test. do we see the Scotch mist? Do we see the oils and the long chain proteins appearing in the glass as a result of not being chill filtered? Yes, we do. Important. On the nose, there's a warmth coming into the fruitiness, a little bit of background spices. I'm getting a soft drop of cinnamon, or we call it cassis, so it's the kind of soft cinnamon, slightly woody cinnamon. Getting a little bit of cardamom, so some soft spice there, slightly soft chocolate, and mace. Mace is the one that I couldn't quite pick up on initially, and also I'm getting little notes of nutmeg. If you are struggling to pick up spice notes off a whisky, let me give you some advice, practical advice. Go out and buy these spices and taste them directly on your tongue, completely raw. You'll find, particularly with mace, for example, and cassis with cardamom, the more you actually taste the raw spice, frankly, the better. The more your brain has a direct point of reference to these actual presences when they appear in a whisky. My favourite's nutmeg. Oh, the Armagnac note comes off quite strongly on first taste once you've added water. It has bonded beautifully with the Craigellachie. Again, you've got this kind of robust French brandy, specialist brandy, southern brandy, so, which actually really suits the more robust, flavoursome style of the Craigellachie signature. It will dissipate, by the way, after about 15 to 20 minutes. But what it leaves behind is a very decent whisky. So they've not used the Armagnac to simply paper over the cracks of inferior cask maturation, as some other distilleries are doing. Right? So it is tempered, it is moderated, it is very nicely constructed. A bit more in the flavour beyond the Armagnac. Wonderfully mouth coating. Slightly caramelised pineapple. There's definitely a background honey note, a soft toffee note, barley sugar note, and the front, and the fruitiness is more at the front. The fruitiness manifests as, again, there's a sweet note of slightly grilled pineapple. The bitterness coming from grapefruit rind and a little bit of grapefruit oil, and there's a sourness coming from the cereal, very nicely delivered. I mean, there's definitely, they're doing something with the yeast at that distillery and the length of fermentation, because you're getting a wonderfully contained, slightly restrained yeasty note in the latter part of the development as you head into the finish with its deliciously clean, fresh, tingly tannins. What a delightful whisky. I've got to hand it to Bacardi, who own this distillery, and it's very much part of the Dewar's brand. But I don't actually hold up a lot of faith with big corporations and the way they manage the identities and signatures of the distilleries they own. I really don't. I'm quite cynical in that respect. But with Bacardi, not just with Craigellachie, but with some of the distilleries that they have, I'm really quite impressed. It's almost as if they're operating with a hands-off policy, leaving the distillery manager just to get on with it. And it's definitely, whatever the formula, it's a formula that works. One final taste before I give my malt mark. Prices, by the way, are creeping up. But there again, they're creeping up on everything because of the volume and sustained energy cost, commodity cost inflation, making Britain in 2020s a much more expensive environment to produce anything and everything. That's what it is. The cost of whiskey can only increase. Global inflation will give it a few more years. It's really going to kick in. This is why I'm saying, if you've got the budget, or if you can approach someone that's to buy you a present at this time of year, get them to buy you a bottle of this, or the 13, or if they're generous, the 17-year-old. All of them are absolutely cracking bottles of single malt whiskey, delivered, of course, with integrity. 46% unchill filtered, natural colour. It's what we're looking for as whiskey sippers. If we're just drinking cocktails, we wouldn't be bothered, because it wouldn't matter, because we're not interested in the work that's gone into delivering a flavour of a spirit. Not when it goes into our cocktails. It's an absolute trashing waste of anything. So just use cheap liquor for your cocktails. That's just my advice. It's my opinion. Final taste. Really enjoying this. There's a dry note, slight saltiness, slight salted, slight macadamia nut caramel with crystallised pineapple, grapefruit, bit of lemon in there, mint. There's some mint coming through now, some quite strong apple mint on the development, latter part of development, into the finish. Also a little bit of wintergreen, just a touch of wintergreen. Euthylamol, yes. Thyme, there's a herbaceous note to this that's coming that you really don't spot until the development. I mean, this is a busy malt, and it's going to get a busy malt mark. Really, I'm really enjoying this. 86 out of 100. That's my malt mark. 86. High mark for high quality single malt. What am I marking it on? I'm marking it on the event in the glass. I'm marking it on the accessible price for the quality delivered. I'm marking it on everything, the holistic experience of what I'm getting for my investment. You know, you can have a great whiskey, but if it's outrageously priced, you feel disappointed, you feel cheated, because you know there's other great whiskies out there significantly cheaper. And this is the battle we are in with all the distilleries, is what can we get for the best value for the budget we are on. But hey, I'll cover that, a little bit of that, in my next review, 1007 Extras, in which I shall be talking about 3 little bits of advice from Ralphie here in the Bothy for 2024 whiskey drinkers. There you go, not to be missed. See you soon.